Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about chapter 15, database connectivity and web technologies. In this chapter, we will learn about the fundamentals of database connectivity, various database technologies for connecting through the database, as well as web data, which means connecting to database from web applications. This is normally the middle tier from the three-tier architecture applications, which have the front end, the middle tier logic that connects to database or does custom processing, and then the backend database is the tier 3. So what services are provided by the web application servers? And what XML or extensible markup language is and why it is important for web database development. So the extensible markup language we will mention briefly, but it allows us to define custom tags to where we can save an entire database in form of an XML file. And then we will discuss about cloud computing and how it enables database as a service model. So database middleware provides an interface between the application program and the database. Data repository is a data management application used to store data generated by the application program. And then we have universal data access, which is a collection of technologies that is used to access any type of data source. And allows us also to manage the data through the common interface. So certain interfaces for connecting to databases is the ODBC, which is Open Database Connection. We also have ORLDB, ADO.NET, and these are Microsoft's ones. We have also here JDBC for Java connections. But yeah, these would be the interface, that is APIs that we can use for connecting to the database from programmatically from our code. I'm trying to color this and I'm not sure why the colors are. Not showing up forecast properly. So type of database source. These are the APIs that This one is for Microsoft applications, and this one for Java. And we can connect to database to our web application. Native SQL connectivity. So there is connection interface provided by the database vendors, which is unique to each vendor. And the interfaces are optimized for particular vendors' database management system. The Open Database Connectivity is a Microsoft implementation, as we mentioned, of a superset of SQL Access Group, which is a standard for database access. It is widely supported connectivity interface. It allows Windows applications to access relational data sources by using the SQL via the standard application programming interface or API. So the data access objects are object-oriented APIs that are used to access the databases such as Microsoft Access, provides optimized interface to expose functionality of Jet Data Engine to programmers. It can be used to access other relational data style sources as well. The RDO, these are remote data objects. These are higher level object-oriented application database servers. Let's look at components of the ODBC architecture. So the high-level ODBC API through which the application programs will access the functionality. Each is a driver manager that is in charge of managing all database connections. The ODBC driver communicates directly to the database management system. So this is how it looks like. Up here are the applications, which might contain some data. So through the interface, they're seen as remote data object. So here we have remote data object, data access object, and Jet Engine. In terms of the operating system, we need what's called a database driver in order to use this interface, the ODBC. So we need ODBC driver manager and a database driver because we could have a number of database management systems installed. So this is what you're looking at here is a Windows machine. We could have a number of database servers installed. We could install Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, Access, or another database. For each one of those, we would need a driver. So we need ODBC driver manager. The database vendors would provide the database drivers so the Windows applications can access the respective database. Here we have a picture for configuring an Oracle data source. Let's make this picture a little bit bigger. So we are choosing here data source, and we are choosing this Oracle ODBC data source. And once we click on it, we can look at the properties. So we give a data source name and a service name. Once we're using this kind of drivers, we would have to log in. So username and password will be required. We can configure the username and password in here, or otherwise, once you start running the application, it will prompt for the username and password. And OLEDB is the database middleware that adds object-oriented functionality. There are a series of COM objects that provide low-level database connectivity for applications. Types of object-based functionality, we have consumers. They can be applications or processes. And we also have providers. These are data or service. So we have consumers and providers. The object linking and embedding the database does not provide support for scripting languages, but it provides high-level application-oriented interface. And it's a unified interface to access data from any programming language that would use the underlying OLEDB object. Okay, let's make this picture a little bit bigger as well. On the top, we have the OLEDB consumers. So those would be applications such as Access, Excel, Visual Studio, or another application that needs to connect to the database. And so we have the ActiveX data object that can directly connect the application to the driver or data providers. And we could use the OLEDB server providers, service providers. The service providers could be email, indexing, query processing, and so on. So we could have OLEDB data providers for Oracle, for Microsoft SQL Server, for Exchange, which is the email server. Well, let's look at the ADO.NET. So which is a data access component of Microsoft.NET. We can manipulate any type of data using combination of network, operating system, and programming language. And it will extend and enhance the functionality of which is critical for development of distributed applications as well. So if we have network, we would like to connect machines together through the network. We could have a distributed application. A data set would contain tables, columns, and rows, which is relational, and the relationships between them, or relationship constants. It's internally stored in XML format. As we mentioned earlier, we can also store this kind of data in an XML document. XML is just like the HTML. It has tags. It's a markup language for developing web applications, but it allows us to have custom tags. So these custom tags, we can define database entity or object through those tags. For example, a customer, a patient, a student. We can have a tag called student, customer, patient, and inside of it, all the properties of this entity. So this XML would allow us to store data in this way. This markup language, extensible markup language. Let's look at the picture for ADO.NET. So we could have a data table collection. Table is here. It has columns, rows, and constraints or relationships between this table and other table. So data relational collection is here. We can have data adapter, data reader, commands, and connection. So those are part of the data providers. And through the OLEDB, we can connect to the database through the OLEDB interface API. Let's look at the JDBC. So we have been looking so far at Microsoft applications and ODBC. If we want to use Java programming language, we have a separate API called JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. So application programming interface allows Java program to interact with wide range of data sources. Company can leverage existing technology and personal training through this kind of technology. It allows direct access to the database server or access via a database middleware. It allows programmers to use their SQL skills to manipulate the data in a company's database. and provides a way to connect the database through an ODBC driver. So let's look at the figure for the JDBC architecture. We have the Java client application. So client application could be really an application that code that we are writing, which we would like to connect to database Java code or Java application. Then we have the Java Database Connectivity API interface, application programming interface, which connects to the JDBC driver. We could have Java Database driver or a JDBC to ODBC bridge driver. So for Java Database driver, we can directly connect to the database, or we could have a middleware. That is middleware code, which we, code of our choosing, we implement to let's say we are writing a web application to place online orders. We need to store the order, the customer information, possibly the credit card, and generate a custom page to respond to this particular person about what they ordered at that moment. So if that's the case, we need this middleware, database middleware code to respond to the customer with a custom page generated on the fly for their name and their order. And then we have the ODBC. If we would like to connect through Java code to an ODBC driver, then we need this bridge, JDBC to ODBC bridge driver, and then we can connect to the ODBC as well with Java. So we mentioned that we can connect to databases from our web applications. That allows us anywhere and anytime data access using even mobile devices via the internet, and it's fast and effective information dissemination. Here are a few benefits for the internet technologies. So we have hardware and software independence because they can work on any device. That saves costs for equipment and software acquisition, give us ability to run on most existing equipment. And it's also platform independent. They are common and simple user interfaces. They reduce training time and cost, and reduce end user support costs. location independence, there is global access, and the creation of new location-aware services. Other advantages include plug-and-play development tools, availability of multiple tools, and more interactive development. So the web server is the main hub through which the internet services are accessed. As we mentioned briefly before, the web server is a silly application which the only thing it does is to serve client requests by sending them the web page that they requested. If so, web server just looks at its hard drive. If it has the web page requested by the client, it sends it to them. Otherwise, it generates some kind of error. For example, error that I don't have this page, 404 page not found, or error 403, it's forbidden that you don't have access to this page and the proper credentials. Or you can throw some other error like redirect the error request was requested, but the same one was requested 5 minutes ago, and I already sent it to you, so I'm not going to resend it again. You can load it from your cache and stuff like that. So the web server could be dead. In that case, you generate service unavailable error, 500 type of error. So if we want the web server to do anything more complex than that, than serving client requests and sending them the web pages requested, then we need what's called a server-side extension. If we have this server-side extension, the programs can interact directly with the web server through this extension, provides its services to the web server in a way that is transparent to the client browser, and it is known as web-to-database middleware. Let's make this figure a little bit bigger. Client computer is here, places HTTP request through the network. Web server is here, looks on its hard drive. If it has the requested page, sends it back to the client. Now, the page itself could be a static page like HTML page. In that case, the client directly displays the page. Otherwise, it could contain script which is executed on the client side browser. If some complex code is contained in the page that needs to be run on the web server, then we need a web server extension in order to run this code, because we see the web server city application. He can only serve client requests and send the pages to the client. If we want the web server to run Java pages or Active Server pages or Cold Fusion pages or something like that, it requires extension, web server extension, to be able to run these kind of codes. Same for CGI. If we want the web servers to run CGI, then we need extension. Let's look at the browser. So the browser is a software that lets the users navigate the web from their client computer. It interprets the HTML code and displays it properly formatted on the screen. If it's a static page, it could run some client-side scripts, but again, the browser is just as silly as the web server. He can only understand how to interpret HTML code. If he needs to run or display anything other than HTML, he needs an extension, client extension. So the client puts run scripts like JavaScript, it needs the extension for those. So here are several client-side extensions. Plugins are applications that get loaded inside of the browser process. Process means an instance of a running program that is rotating to use the CPU, and it has its own memory RAM space for data and code loading. So this plugin gets loaded into the process of the browser. The browser, that's one option. If it doesn't have plugin and it wants to do something more advanced than reading, then it could call a helper application. It can, let's say somebody puts a Word document on the web page. Browser can't open it unless it has a plugin, or it pretty much spawns the Microsoft Word application to open that. So web application servers. Coming back to a topic we had in the previous 2-3 weeks. So the web application server is just a web server that hosts the web pages, and when the client connects to it, it sends the requested page to the client. The web server could run more complicated code, such as middleware, and for that it requires an extension, and in the middleware is the code of our choice that we can implement inside of it connection to a database where we can store and retrieve data for our web application. Let's say, for example, if we have a web commerce application where clients can place orders online, such as on Amazon.com, for example. And that situation, we could implement our connection for the orders and the customer information into a back-end database server. So this database server in the back end is a separate machine than the web server. It can be on the same machine, but we don't recommend that because web server is already having a heavy load from all the customers that are connecting to it. So we want our database to be on a separate server. And we establish connection to it through the ODBC JDBC interface to send the queries to this database. Such as what order was placed, how many of those products are ordered today, how many we have remaining in stock, who is this client, do we have other similar clients of his age or his location or something like that. We can send these kind of queries to the database and retrieve results through the database connection. So that is, there are a few more slides, please read them. So that is all we have for this lecture.